All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our virtual college exploration for all Illinois students, sponsored by the Illinois Association for College Admission Counseling and StriveScan. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Laura Shutt. I'm an IACAC member and I will be your facilitator today. A few quick housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many sessions happening, so be sure to check out the full schedule at iacac.org. And additionally, this presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week on that same website, iacac.org. So now I would like to turn it over to our presenters from Lawrence Tech.
Okay, awesome guys. I'm just gonna go ahead quickly and share my screen with all of you to go ahead and get started. All right. Okay. So hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Jill Homerding, and I am the Chicago Regional Admission Counselor for Lawrence Technological University, or as we often say, Lawrence Tech or LTU. You'll often hear us using those names. So throughout the presentation, I'll probably be using them as well. We're going to go over some great information about Lawrence Tech to start off this session, and then I will be passing it off to Scott Shaw, an Associate Professor and Associate Dean for the College of Architecture and Design. He'll delve a little bit deeper into the College of Architecture and Design, the focal point of this presentation after I complete kind of the basic information about Lawrence Tech. So to go ahead and get started, Lawrence Tech is a small private university. We are located in Southfield, Michigan. Southfield is located about 20 miles northwest of downtown Detroit. So it's a northwest suburb of Detroit. For those of you that live in the Chicagoland area, it's about a 5-hour drive, 4.5, depending on where you are in the Chicagoland area. You'll essentially just drive across the entire state of Michigan on 94 to get there. Southfield is the nation's #1 region for engineering, architecture, and technology, which is a great for our students when looking for internships and co-ops. So that's really a huge perk of our location. Our size, I did mention that we are a small school, so to be more specific, we have about 2,000 undergraduate students, and with our graduate student population, our grand total is about 3,000 students. 11:1 is our student to faculty ratio, and our average class size is about 15 students. Additionally, all of our courses are taught by faculty, so you'll never have a teaching assistant or a graduate assistant. And with those numbers, we really feel, you'll always have a personalized, individualized education. You'll never just be a number or a face in the crowd in a huge lecture hall with hundreds of students. That doesn't exist on campus. We don't have huge lecture halls on campus. And so just a quick history lesson I always like to share. We were founded in 1932 by the Lawrence brothers as a college of engineering. So our first campus was actually adjacent to the Henry Ford Model T plant. And so their idea was that workers could work at the plant during the day and then come to school in the evening, so that what they were learning in the classroom, they could actually apply that right on the job. And so that's developed into a model that we still hold true to this day on campus, and that is theory and practice. Okay, so what do I mean by theory and practice? So not only are our students getting a base of theoretical knowledge to be successful, so the theory part, but then they are getting that hands-on education and experience from day one. So the practice part. They are getting in the studios, in the labs, freshman year, first semester, jumping in. They're getting their hands dirty right away. We want to make sure that our students at the undergraduate level are having these opportunities. Some other ways that we carry out our model of theory and practice are through co-ops and internships, undergraduate research, and one of my favorite aspects that Lawrence Tech students get to utilize is LTU Zone. So what is LTU Zone, you may ask? Well, technological is our middle name, so we really like to incorporate every tech in everything that we do. So LTU Zone is our campus laptop program for all of our students that is included in tuition. But it's not just any laptop, it's a high-end laptop loaded with industry standard software designed specifically for your major. So if you're in the College of Architecture and Design, you're probably going to be, you are going to have different software than someone, that's in the College of Engineering or whatever it may be. So it's designed specifically for your major. And because it's professional grade software, it's the same as what companies are using. So you really have a leg up when you're applying for internships and co-ops and things like that. You already know the software, so you don't have to be taught. It's not, and so we do actually have some students that, they'll come back from their internship, they'll tell us, we had a great experience, and they'll actually say, we had to teach the other students that don't go to Lawrence Tech how to use the software. So it's definitely a huge, huge perk and benefit for our students. While it's not required, most of our students take advantage of this awesome program. All right, so moving on to campus life. We still have a lot to offer on campus, even though we're a small school. We have over 60 clubs and organizations, so there's always something to do on campus to get involved. We have Greek life, cultural organizations, professional organizations, special interest groups, anything really. And if there's something that you don't see, you can certainly go ahead and start that club or organization by working with the Student Engagement Office and our Dean of Students. Essentially, we just want to make sure that you're getting everything you want out of your college experience here at LTU. Another great way our students are becoming involved on campus is by living on campus, right? What better way? We have 4 great residential halls on campus, but the one I really want to focus on today is East Residence Hall because that's our brand new freshman dorm and it's community style. So in East, since it is all freshmen, that is really, a great way for there to be that sense of camaraderie in the building. We want you getting out of your room, using the lounges, using the fitness center in the building, things like that, to make those connections with the other students living in the building. We think that living on campus is a great opportunity to help bridge that gap from high school to college and really immerse yourself in what it's like to be a student at Lawrence Tech. You're right on campus, so you're really in the thick of things. Another thing I like to mention when talking about campus life and living on campus is that anybody can have a car on campus, freshmen included, and it is absolutely free. Parking is free. So for those of you that would want to bring a car, you certainly can. And for those of you that would choose not to, there actually is an Amtrak train that is going to go from various Chicagoland locations for you guys right to the town next door to Southfield. It's called Royal Oak, so very close to campus. So that's where the Amtrak would take you. We do have a lot of out-of-state students from the Midwest that utilize that train to get back and forth from school to home. And then regards to athletics, we do have over 30 men and women's varsity athletics teams. You can see them listed on the screen here. We are a part of the NAIA. So essentially it's equivalent to the NCAA Division III, but with NAIA, you can receive scholarship for your sport. I also like to point out that this does include our marching band, drumline, dance team, and color guard. So you can also earn scholarship for those opportunities as well. And if you're interested in playing a varsity sport at Lawrence Tech, you can go to our website and you'll see it on the screen here. It's ltuathletics.com. And this will take you to a recruit me form. And that will essentially be the way that all of your information is getting to the coaches so that you guys can then go ahead and discuss your opportunities for playing at Lawrence Tech. All right, so next up, under where it says your investment, we'll just quickly go over tuition and fees. So we do assess our tuition and fees per credit hour. So we do an estimate based on 30 credit hours for a full year. So 15 credits in the fall, 15 credits in the spring semester, and that's pretty normal. You'll see from the chart that your tuition does vary based a little bit upon what college you're in, but you can see that the range is pretty much $34,000 to $36,000 a year. And then if you go ahead and add in housing and a meal plan, you're looking closer to $45,000 to $47,000 a year. However, this is what we like to call our sticker price. So what I mean by that is that this does not include any scholarships, our scholarship opportunities or financial aid for students. And so most of our students are receiving some form of aid. no one's really paying that sticker price that I just mentioned. So let's dive a little deeper into those opportunities. So you can see on the screen, 74% of our students receive financial assistance. So we encourage all students to go ahead and fill out the FAFSA. Additionally, we do offer academic merit-based scholarships, which you'll see over in the blue box on the right-hand side of the screen. So for our academic scholarships, you are automatically reviewed upon acceptance. So there isn't a separate application process for that. Then we also have other scholarships though. Scholarships for students that are involved in DECA, FIRST Robotics, VEX Robotics, Eagle Scouts, Girl Scouts, tons of things. So what's great about Lawrence Tech is you can receive up to 2 scholarships from us, and so you can stack. So let's say, maybe you receive an athletic scholarship, or one of the ones I just mentioned, you can stack that on top of a merit-based scholarship that you might receive. We also have our Buell Honor and Donnelly scholarships, which are our full ride tuition scholarships that are application only. So those do require like a separate application process. We also have an out-of-state scholarship for those of you in the great state of Illinois with me. So essentially, if you're admitted, you'll receive this out-of-state scholarship, which is $5,000 annually. So that's something, you could stack that on top of another scholarship that you might receive. All right, so switching gears to the admission side of things. To start, our requirements, so what we need from you. First and foremost, the application. We are on the Common App, as well as we have our own application on our website, whichever you prefer. It's up to you, however you want to apply. We're also going to need your official high school transcript sent directly from your high school over to us. So it has to come from your high school, can't come from you or your parent, has to come from high school. And then a personal essay. And we are going fully test optional for the 2021 year. So you don't need to submit your test score to be considered for a merit-based scholarship. So that's just something to note for the seniors in the room. We are going fully test optional for the 2020 school year. However, if you do have a test score, feel free to send that in to us, as we will take it into consideration when looking at your placement exams. So we do require placement exams for our students that are accepted and then enroll. So your test score could potentially waive you out of having to take that. Additionally, we are rolling admissions, but we recommend applying as early as you can to secure your scholarship. So I like to say that if you complete your application by, Thanksgiving, you'll be all set. And then that way you can enjoy the holiday season without having to worry about applications. And then as you can see on the right side of the screen, you'll see our list of academic majors that we offer listed underneath the colleges that we have on campus. We'll hear, of course, about the College of Architecture and Design in just a second, but I also want to mention our 3 other colleges that we have on campus, and that is our College of Engineering, College of Arts and Sciences, and our College of Business and Information Technology. And then to wrap things up, visit if you can, either virtually or in person. We are offering daily tours, both virtually and on campus. So if you'd like to come visit, we'd love to have you. Our on-campus tours are following safety protocol and social distancing, COVID-19 restrictions. So basically, definitely safety is the #1 concern there, but we are still offering those. And if you can't make it, that's completely okay. We have plenty of virtual options for you guys as well. And also, I kind of like to say, feel free to follow us on social media. I think that's a great way, especially if you can't make it to campus, to get a feel for what campus is like, by looking at our Instagram story or, other social media platforms. It really gives you an idea of what it's like to be on campus without actually being on campus. And then I've also included my information here. So as always, please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. But now I would like to turn it over to Scott Schall, and he'll be able to talk about our College of Architecture and Design.
I just realized I'm muted. That would be a very difficult presentation to make if I was muted the entire time. I assume you'd let me know, right, Jill? All right. So thank you for the introduction, and thank you for everyone here hanging out for a minute to learn more about the College of Architecture and Design at LTU. Just so you know, College of Architecture and Design, you can find a great deal of information that I'm going to present today on our website, which is listed there, ltu.edu/CoAD. You can also email the college using the email address there. And there is a phone number. I will be quite frank, I don't know where my phone is. I assume I have one because I get an email from my phone when someone leaves a message, but otherwise I really have no idea. So I'd advise this. I'll also leave at the end, my personal email address that you guys can use to ask any follow-up questions that you might have. So the College of Architecture and Design on the campus of LTU consists of a handful of degree programs, so including a accredited, NAB accredited Master of Architecture degree with an embedded Bachelor of Science Architecture degree. It is a direct entry Master of Architecture degree, meaning that if you were accepted as a freshman into our Master of Architecture program, your seat into the graduate level program is guaranteed. You have the right of first refusal, provided you earn a 3.0 GPA with us. Everyone else has to apply and letters of reference and all of that. But if you're our student, we reserve the seat for you. It also means that you get an extra year of the scholarships that Jill talked about a moment ago. You get to keep the great laptop and be a part of the laptop program, etc. And we do that because most of the students who come to Lawrence Technological University to study architecture are really excited about being architects. They're not doing it frivolously. They're not doing it as a kind of a pastime. They actually want to be architects. They want to reshape the built environment, make that built environment more beautiful, more sustainable, more equitable, more inclusive, a lot of different motivations. But at the end of the day, they all want to get out there and they want to get into the field. And the only way to do that, of course, is with an accredited degree. So the Master of Architecture is our accredited degree. We also have an integrated path to licensure, which I'll speak about a little bit in a little while, which allows our students to also pass the examinations, or at least take the examinations. We can't guarantee, of course, they pass them, but they have every shot to do so. And also fulfill their internship before they graduate, meaning that we've taken a 13-year process, which is the normal process to becoming an architect, and reduced it to 6 years for our students. We also have NASAT accredited programs in game design, graphic design, industrial design, and transportation design, and a NASAT and CETA accredited program in interior architecture. All of these programs are once again geared to empowering and equipping students to enter the fields productively upon graduation, and in most cases even before graduation. I know the vast majority of the students in the architecture program and a number in the other programs end up working in the field well before they graduate. And they end up entering that field as unique creative individuals. We're a small private university, and we do not view our students as widgets that we're trying to educate on a factory floor. We view you all as unique creative human beings, and we try to find a way to nurture that distinct position so that you can become a unique creative professional. We do this in a number of ways, one of which is to allow for dual degrees, a rather unique aspect of our college where students studying architecture, as you can see there, can choose to overlap another degree with that study. And that overlap is really quite efficient. And it's efficient because as an architect, you are the conductor of the orchestra that makes the built environment. And so you have to know a little about everything. You have to know a little about real estate development, interior architecture, business, engineering, etc. And as a result, as a program, when we share our curriculum with our friends in construction management, as an example, and ask them how many additional credits do our students need to take to earn your degree, their answer is actually around 40 credits. So for our students to be able to earn a Bachelor of Science in Construction Management in 40 some odd credits, or a Bachelor of Science in Media Communication for 20 credits, or Interior Architecture for 30, or Civil Engineering for 50 some, like that is an opportunity that they want to take advantage of, and be able to graduate LTU as both an architect and an engineer, both an architect and a construction manager. For many of our students, that's not needed. They don't want to have the dual degree, but they want to have a specialization, or they want to find a way to minor in graphic design or minor in game art. So to be a transportation designer, but minor in graphic design or game art, so as to understand a little bit more about interactive design, and which is becoming more and more a field, or part of the field of transportation design. We also offer a number of certificate programs. All of them apparently are acronyms. Building Information Modeling is BIM. It's a cornerstone of the architectural practice where, generally speaking right now, everything that is built will have a digital twin somewhere. And that digital twin will guide the fabrication and construction process all the way through. And we do quite a good job within the normal process of the degree of equipping students, leveraging the laptop that was spoken of a moment ago, equipping students to do well as building information modelers. But for many of our students, they want to have a specialization, a bona fide separate certificate, and this is a great opportunity. GIS is Geographic Information Systems. It's the way that you can take huge data sets that span the urban environment, be able to understand them, be able to overlap them. If you've been following mappings of COVID spread or anything else, GIS was involved in that. And PID is public interest design. As you'll see in a moment, we have a number of faculty that are interested in working with community members and using design and architecture as a way of improving the lives of those around us. And so for students interested in that, the PID certificate is a great opportunity. As mentioned, this is our campus. We're situated here. This is a STEM center on our main campus in Southfield. A beautiful campus that our students like. We've invested a lot in it. Here's the shot. I think you saw the exact same. I probably want to get a second photograph, Jill. I'll just switch mine next time. We actually have a few. But that's just a part of the story. We also have a design center downtown. Many of our students in the world of architecture and design find that the downtown setting is quite appealing. They find that it's conveniently located near the jobs that many of them have as upper level students. And so we've opened up this design center, and it has a gallery space, as you can see here, offices, studio spaces, faculty offices. The AIA of Michigan is located here, as well as several other design entities, so it gives students a chance to kind of overlap with those professional organizations. There are, of course, student-based versions of those organizations within our college, so that overlap is also brought to bear at the Southfield campus. We also have a robust study abroad options for our students. What's interesting about the study abroad is, as a small private university, most of our faculty that's focused on technology, most of our faculty are engaged in applied research. And so our faculty members in the architecture program, by and large, are architects, and graphic designers teach graphic design students. And so what happens is those faculty members are engaged in research, and they just open up the opportunity for students to be a part of that research if the students so choose. And sometimes that involves travel abroad, and gives students an opportunity not just to travel abroad, but to travel abroad and engage with the communities there in a really unique way. We do have the quintessential let's go to Paris and sketch the Eiffel Tower kind of moments. Those are great moments and quite popular. But what we found is many students like to do things like travel with me to do community-based work around the world. This being a project I just completed with students in South Africa, where we traveled for 3 weeks, partnering with various community groups. In this particular project, it was a 10-day project where we spent 3 days scavenging materials and then 7 days constructing it. Design was kind of embedded within both of those processes. And so this was 7 days of construction, a team of 11, which 2 faculty members, 4 alumni, and the rest students, and a budget of $1,500. And for me in my work, what's interesting is as an architect, I've recognized that we're quite good at spending millions of dollars. But for the communities that I work with, communities, informal settlements around the world, et cetera, that's just not an achievable price point. And so finding ways of using scavenged materials, and in this case, almost every material you see here, except for the concrete and the corrugation for the roof and some of the wood used in the structure, was all scavenged, which allows us to bring the price point down and also allows us to empower the community to take this work on and to develop new work out of it. And that's exactly what happened as I worked this year with another group of students remotely, because we weren't permitted to travel, but working remotely with our friends in South Africa to develop schools, clinics, and other much needed community assets using the same technique and using the same price point, which of course they're developing now, even as I sit here and talk with you. For many of our students though, like this is not what they're interested in, and that's fine. We don't do clones. Like we have other faculty that are engaged in street art and the production of fine art. Our students are helping and working alongside them, both in Detroit and overseas. We have a street artist that took a team to Brazil recently to do street art. And for our students, they recognize that that's a unique opportunity, not just to engage a foreign location, but to engage it through a particular lens, and also to engage world-renowned research as it was forming. And when I'm saying students, it is important to recognize, I mean undergraduate students. Many of the opportunities I'm going to share with you today are present in other places, but generally reserved for PhD students or master's level students. Everything I'm sharing with you today, I took a freshman with me to this project in South Africa, and she did amazing work. We don't shy away from our students. We let them enter the field right away. They don't camp out in liberal arts land for 2 years before they get into major. They start with us in the college day one. And as a result, they generally speaking get jobs way before they graduate. And this about 10 years ago prompted our architecture program to recognize that we had to go online. And we recognized this because they were getting these jobs and the jobs weren't always in Detroit. And so the students were faced with the decision, do I take this great job, which is kind of the point behind these studies, or do I complete the studies because the job is in Chicago and the school is over here in Southfield, or the job is in Toronto. And so by pushing our degree program or the classes online at the graduate level, we allowed the students to say yes to both that great job as well as completing their degree program. And this has allowed us over the last 10 years to develop a bit of expertise in this arena, how to educate students well online. I'm sure many people in the audience today have had very positive experiences in an online classroom, and probably a few of you had fairly negative experiences in an online classroom. And when we first started, we did too. And it's just over 10 years of time that we've begun to figure out ways of using some of the discoveries we've made, some of the strengths in the online forum, to begin to address some of the issues associated with trying to educate folks online. Again, it helps us right now at this moment where we find this being a prevailing mode of education, but it also helps our students in that many times as an architect, you will graduate, you will go on to practice, and you will design work on sites you've never visited for clients you've never meet, at least face-to-face, with consultants who live all over the world. The same is true if you're developing websites as a graphic designer, if you're developing vehicles for Ford. Like, no matter what it is, you have to be able to integrate yourself and your design process into a globalized workforce. And this gives our students at the architecture program a chance to do that. We are looking for opportunities to do this within our other programming as well, thinking through whether or not a final year of the interior architecture program might afford students the opportunities to work online with us, because again, they're working in the field and the jobs are not always in Detroit. And the work actually doesn't suffer. I get some of the best work out of the students online. Once you figure out how to work well there, it is quite a powerful ally in the educational experience. This project in particular was a project that I worked with students a year ago, working online, entered it into competition, and it ended up receiving an award within the steel competition. What was interesting is I think there were 300 and some odd entries from 45 different universities across the US. Our student team that received the award was the only team of students where they never actually physically met each other. There was a student in Las Vegas, a student in Cincinnati, and a student who was still in Southfield working in our library. And they were able to work together well to integrate their effort and produce an award-winning project. And this is not a unique occurrence. This is something that happens all the time. And a big part of the reason for that is because whether you're studying industrial design with us or graphic design or game art or architecture, we are not shy about exposing you to the way the world operates within that field and asking you to draw from that understanding your creative process, your creative output. And so in architecture, that looks like students understanding and not shying away from gravity and steel and material science and trying to find a way to use that knowledge to generate a unique position as an architect. This again starts in the first year. It starts day one. The first studios you take, and one of the things I should probably describe, I keep using the word studio. Studio is both a type of class and a place, for those of you who don't know. You're probably well acquainted with lecture-based coursework where you're told a number of things, you read some things, and then you're required to recite those things as close to what you read as possible. As you might also guess, that's one of the least effective forms of teaching. Labs, which you probably also are familiar with, where you're asked to take that content and dissect it and to analyze it and to experiment with it, is a far more effective form. And we actually have quite a few labs embedded within the architecture program as well as some of our other programs. The studio is a place where you take the knowledge you have generated, the knowledge that you have found, the knowledge that professors have shared with you, and you creatively synthesize that into a design response. And the design response will look a lot and act a lot like the field you're going to enter. So if you're a game artist, you will be producing video games with us, and you will be creating character sheets, and you will be writing narratives associated with the games and developing strategies. If you're an architect, it'll be around buildings and about the built environment. If you're a transportation designer, around vehicles, etc. This is something that design education, the studio-based design education, it's something you simply can't microwave. There's no fast forward button to help students understand how to creatively deploy the knowledge they've been given, how to synthesize all of this information in a single kind of creative outcome. It's a high bar. It's a bar where there's no right and wrong answer. It's about making an argument for a particular approach. And for our students, we found that like by starting them day one, we are able to get far further with them than if we waited until year 2 or 3 because we didn't welcome them into the college right away. And so in this studio that you're seeing here, this is a first year studio where the students, in this studio in particular, it's actually students from across the college. So all of the disciplines I've cited at the beginning are in this studio. And we do that quite a bit because we believe that students are better at what they're going to do as professionals if they talk to a bunch of people who aren't going to do that thing. And so our game art students become better at game art if they talk to an architecture student and if they talk to interior architects and industrial designers, et cetera. And the same with transportation designers talking to urban designers and architects. And so we facilitate those conversations in coursework such as this, where the students are physically in the room together, through experiences such as I outlined before, where when I went to South Africa, there were architecture students, but also interior architecture students, a dual civil architecture student, and I think there was an engineer as well that came with us. And those students, they become better at their craft because they're engaging with folks who are in a very different place from a very different perspective. Again, a complicated thing, but if you start right away, something that you can absolutely learn. A lot of this, though, is about within our degree programs, understanding that you are not operating in isolation. We do not believe that our students should be, locked within a classroom, safely ensconced behind air conditioning and windows. Our students need to be out in the world. If you're an architecture student, you need to be out in the world, understanding how rainwater falls across, the earth as it descends, and you need to figure out how light comes across a wall. You need to figure out how people inhabit space, and all of these things represent the base, the foundation of your design. If you're a graphic designer, you need to figure out how people engage the printed page, how people interact with websites. What's the kind of coding that's on the back side of the website that makes the thing work? We view these as absolutely necessary content areas that the students must experiment with and then apply within their creative work. And so what you're seeing here is the outcome of a lab where a student in either architecture or interior architecture, I don't know because the studio again is shared, but they're looking at how light comes across the surface of a wall. And then the final project would take advantage of that. So the student gains the access to the word therefore, which as designers is probably the most powerful ally in a design argument. That instead of saying, you know what, I think it'd be cool if I did this, or it'd be interesting if I did this, or I want to do this, things that the clients, most of whom are spending a lot of money on your beliefs and your proposals, they don't care. What they want to know is what you've studied, what you've observed, what you've learned from those studies, and then what you're going to do about it as a designer. I know that when I used to design amusement parks as an architect and work for Six Flags, they were much more keen to listen to me if I could tell them how their revenue stream would improve if they made certain design decisions, or how people's enjoyment of the park could be measurably improved if I made certain design decisions, as opposed to Gotham City just being more interesting here if I did X, Y, or Z. Sometimes this experiment involves forklifts and out in the cold. It does snow in Michigan. Not that you're not used to that in the Chicagoland area or even in the state generally, but we're not afraid of getting our students in a forklift out in the cold, trying to figure out, in this case, what's the kind of the edge of when a digitally fabricated arch, like when it stops to function. Obviously, a lot of simulation and modeling preceded this, a lot of stress tests, working with our friends in engineering to crush things. But then once you earn that knowledge, the final proof is actually building the thing. And we do a lot of that. We do a lot of that within our school. We do a lot of that abroad. The image below with the white arch structures, that's actually in Albania, working in coordination with the university there. Another example of a kind of study abroad experience. The picture on the side there, which is the arch, is a student who is beginning to research digital fabrication and how digital fabrication might fundamentally change the way we as architects practice. This is something that we welcome as students. One of the classes you'll start day one is engaging all that wonderful software that is a part of your laptop, and not in a way where you're isolating it, where you're taking and looking at AutoCAD for a semester, and then the next semester you look at the Adobe suite. That kind of stuff you can do online without our help and without spending tuition money. We look at it as, how do you creatively integrate these very different tools? And we also look at it as a bit ridiculous. Like, if you were trying to learn woodworking, you wouldn't take a class in drill, and then a class in saw, and then a class in hammering. You would actually put all those tools together in the construction of something. And that's what we believe as well, relative to these software platforms. It's about how they intertwine to the production of something that's related to your field. As a part of that is advanced manufacturing and robotics, which all of the students in architecture are required to engage by the end of their sophomore year. And all the students in the other disciplines are welcome to engage through coursework and through electives. Why do I bring this up? Many programs will have robotics available to students, again, at the master's level or the PhD level. To open that up, and maybe, and moreover, to require every sophomore level student to integrate themselves and to work with these tools is a quite unique opportunity. It's what leads students like Janelle, who you see here, doing some fairly remarkable work as an undergraduate. She then went on to win a Ballard Fellowship. We'd set up a fellowship in robotics called the Ballard Fellowship, where students who are graduating with us that want to spend a year experimenting with robotics and construction can earn a salary and do that. She then leveraged that as an opportunity to continue her studies at Yale, where she is currently on a full ride. We have most of the students end up sticking around with us and going all the way through the master's degree, at least those who are eligible. But we do have a few, such as Janelle, that recognize that they need to study a really unique piece of architecture. And there's a school such as Yale that would do that specializes in that. And so they end up going off and doing that, and we support that. This is an example of an output from an online class to kind of demonstrate the fact that we do online differently. In this online class, the students started from all over the nation, coordinating together at 40 some odd different visions of what a pavilion within our courtyard might look like, how it might function if it were designed to deal with the fact that there's a giant fishbowl that not a lot of people want to hang out in. They then, through a Darwinian kind of creative process and discussion, those 44 ideas became 11 ideas supported by 4 students, became 4 ideas supported by 11, and finally 1 supported by all 44. The 44 students then came to campus, all 44 of them, and they had a week to construct that vision together. And so coordinating with people who lived many miles apart, again, quite reflective of the field and also quite demonstrative of the fact that we do online education a little differently. Again, examples of our faculty. This is the aforementioned street artist, Steve Coy. Students are involved in this work as he sets up exhibits locally, as he goes and travels abroad. Another example of a student, this is the project in South Africa that I just mentioned. It's interesting to note that this particular student who came with me to South Africa also worked with Steve Coy from a slide ago, has started a business. Upon graduation, he with another student started a business around digital fabrication and making, and they provide services to artists and custom furniture manufacturers all over Detroit. This is an example of a student. So what I brought up all of this technology a second ago, and I think it's important to recognize that our students engage this technology, but they don't just accept it. And so in this particular case, the student began to wonder, okay, I understand how a CNC operates. I understand how to work with it. I can output it, but can I actually redesign it? Can I redesign it so it's tiny and fits in a suitcase and costs $400? And that's what you see here. The answer to that question is yes. And we then took that with us to Bolivia as I was working with another community to develop vocational training for kids working the streets there. And so this kind of marriage of students interesting research, faculty research coming together to improve the lives of people around the world. Or to answer questions. In this case, can you digitally fabricate a house? Again, how do you answer that? Well, you build a chunk of a house. This is actually within a studio at the graduate level. Again, demonstrating the kind of overlap between faculty research and student work. I mentioned this at the beginning that the average for someone to become an architect is 13 years when you calculate the needing the NAB accredited degree, passing the examinations, fulfilling the internship. Our students do it in 6, and they do it in 6 because we've integrated all of these different requirements, not because we've diluted them in any way, we've just overlapped them, and we've leveraged our position in the field. In the case of architecture, over half the registered architects in the state of Michigan are graduates. And so they understand what our program's about, they respect what our program's about, and what our students can do, and our students are quite desirable to them. They want them in their firms. And so as a result, they were quite supportive. The firms were quite supportive of our program and quite supportive of the students who came through it. And so this has been a really great asset, and we're happy to have it. A couple figures within the college, slightly different. Maybe it's because we have super smart students, I'm not sure, but that 70% for our college is not true. It's 84% of the students in our college last year received scholarships. And the scholarships committed was over $4 million. And that's the committed because when you come to LTU, you are getting a commitment. Those scholarships are renewable for 4 years for most of our degree programs, 5 years for the direct entry masters, because we're not interested in recruiting students. We're interested in recruiting graduates. And we have a very high success rate in that regard. Our students have a support structure through individual advising by faculty members, through small class sizes, through intensive work within the field from day one with a supportive faculty. All of those things help our students achieve their goal, which again is getting that degree and entering the field. And so we're quite proud of the fact that our university has followed suit with that commitment by providing the finances necessary in a predictable way for all the years of the student study. As mentioned, we do have a distinct scholarship for our college called 5 Images. This was created because the university's awards, which are automatically applied based on GPA and at other times standardized test scores, or not this year, but previous years. This year, I believe it's only GPA. We found that some students, their success, their future success with us is not always measured by the GPA. And so we believe that students in the fine arts, students with a kind of creative capacity also are deserving of award. And so we created something called 5 Images that just invites students by February 1st to submit up to 5 images of their creative work. And that's defined broadly. Creative work can be anything from painting to acts of writing. There was a student last year that received an award for a piece of rhetoric that she developed and delivered. We define creativity broadly because we believe that the conversations around design are best couched with a very diverse student body interested in different things. We're talking about architecture. We want at the table someone interested in welding, next to someone interested in poetry, next to someone interested in math or physics. Somewhere in the middle of that mix is architecture. And the same is true with all of the other degree programs. The other reason we started this is because we stopped requiring a portfolio for entry. And we did this not because we don't believe in the value of the fine arts, indeed we do, but because we also believe that students that are interested in math and interested in science and have capacity there can go on to become great designers and great architects. And we actually have graduates to prove this belief. And so if we require a portfolio, we're putting the mathematicians in a bit of a bind. I don't know what they put in that portfolio, but we're pretty sure we don't want to see it. And so instead of using a portfolio requirement as a way of keeping mathematicians at bay and not allowing them to become architects, we felt, well, let's actually open our degree up to those scientists, those mathematicians, and people who are outside the arts but interested in architecture or design. Let's actually open up the field to them, welcome them in, but then let's also create an incentive. Let's create some support for those that do have a background in the fine arts, because there is obvious overlap between the fine arts and the various degree programs that we offer. Again, as promised, this is my personal information. You can see here, that's who I am, my title, and that's my email there. And I would urge you to call me. Well, not call me, don't do that. Urge you to email me. If you would like to get more information, if you have a question about anything I've shared today, if you want to schedule an in-person visit or a Zoom meeting. I'm happy to run you around the college. I have all the keys to all the doors. I can show you the labs. I can show you the student work. If you're a senior, we could do it this year. If you're a junior, you might wait a second so our campus can kind of We do have students on campus, but obviously, like most universities, we have some students on campus, some online. So I'm happy to host you at any time, but I might wait a second until we have everyone back on campus and the college is more reflective of what we actually are most of the time. So I think at that moment, I can stop sharing my screen. I can thank you again for hanging out with us. I'm sure being on yet another Zoom session was probably not high on the list of a lot of people. I know it's not high on my list, but I hope you found the time useful, illuminating, and I look forward to continuing the conversation with many of you.
All right. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Scott. And thank you, students, for joining us. When you close the window, there will be a very quick 4-question survey. We appreciate any feedback you can provide. Also, just a reminder, this is just one of many sessions being hosted, so please be sure to sign up for any additional sessions at IACAC.org. And in about a week, you will find the session's recording as well as other session recordings at IACAC.org. Thank you so much, and I'm going to go ahead and close out the webinar.
Thank you, guys.